And this is the destroyer Shaw in dry dock here, just sort of right next door. And they got the brunt of the second wave of Japanese attack. There's the Navy Yard. Unfortunately, that's been in the news lately for very sad reasons. There's Battleship Row again, from the California to the Arizona, where our boys were stationed. Now, this is the second most famous photograph of the attack, and this is the destroyer Shaw going up. And fortunately, my father-in-law and my wife, they were living in a hotel on Waikiki, and he heard the attack, got into the car, drove down toward the dry dock, was going aboard the ship in the dry dock when this explosion hit the forward magazine, and that's the forward part of the ship that's blowing up. And there's the Shaw after the attack. It lost its bow. Went back into service later on with a new bow. Now, the third boy who died in Pearl Harbor was radioman second class Clyde Carson Moore, killed on the Shaw. Interesting that it was a Navy family. He had two brothers that were serving on ships out in the Pacific, and 6 sons altogether served in the Navy during the war. They were able to recover the bodies of many of the boys on the Shaw, and this is a memorial to them in the cemetery in St. Louis County, Missouri. But there is no remembrance or memorial to the Shaw at Pearl Harbor for some reason. Now, I thought you might be interested in this. My father-in-law did go aboard the ship after the explosion, it was burning. He went to the fantail and retrieved the ship's ensign, which he later donated to the Naval Academy Museums where it stayed. And I thought you'd be interested in this too, because Bud talked about finding a bullet or a piece of metal in his clothing, indicating that he was hit. Well, there's a 30 caliber bullet that somehow or another ended up in the jacket of my father-in-law. He saved it, and it became part of one of Carol's charm bracelets later. Now, some of the Wilmingtonians included Major Brooke M.P. Allen of the Air Force. He was a B-17 Flying Fortress bomber pilot, was commander of the Hawaiian B-17 Air Force at the time. And after the attack, that he and his group got airborne and went looking for the Japanese, but they looked north instead of looking west, and they came back and they found nothing. But eventually, he led B-17 attacks at the Battle of Midway and was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross and was promoted later in his career to Major General. Now, this is one of the most fascinating people I've ever run into in Wilmington's World War II history. And if you haven't seen the movie Midway, which is showing now, please go to see it. It's fairly accurate, pretty accurate. I think you'll enjoy it because it features this man, Dickinson, as one of the principal characters, flying off the carrier Enterprise. And what his relationship to Pearl Harbor is, that, as you know, the carriers were all out. Fortunately, they were not stationed in Pearl Harbor at the attack. But the Enterprise was coming back into Pearl Harbor. Their aircraft flew into Ford Island, which is the Naval Air Station there in the middle of Pearl Harbor. Dickinson, his aircraft was shot down by Japanese fighters. His gunner and radioman was killed. He bailed out, landed in a sugarcane field, got back to Ford Island, got another plane, and also went out looking for the Japanese, and did not find them. That scene is depicted very accurately in the movie Midway. And of course, at Midway, and I'm not going to tell you about what he did at Midway other than receive his third Navy Cross. But within weeks after the Battle of Midway in June of 1942, he was in Wilmington talking to the Wilmington Rotary Club about Midway. But he helped kill the barrels to the Carriacata, along with another Wilmington boy named Pfeiffer in his squadron, who was missing in action, did not come home. Dickinson was a character. He ended up making Admiral, but here's some of the things he was admonishing Rotarians on. Other Wilmingtonians serving there at the Army Schofield Barracks, at Hickam Air Force, Army Air Force Base, and here are bullet holes in one of the administrative buildings at Hickam, which you can still see today, and you can also see them at Schofield Barracks and at Wheeler Field and some of the other places. When you go there, take a tour, and because there's more to the attack on Pearl Harbor than just going to the Arizona. But these are some of the other units that our men and women were serving in or around. Oh, we met this man. There's Bud. And there's Bud Smoke, there's the Pennsylvania, and there's the Cassinan Downs, also in the dry dock. And Bud, we are so happy that you're here today. And I tell you what, folks, let's demand that you make a promise that 12 months from today, you better be back here again for another.